Ode to Aptera, the most efficient vehicle on the planet. It feels so right. Glides down the highway, taking off from the sun. No more drilling.
Welcome to a special edition of my Aptera Journey, shot on location in Nürnberg, Germany. While I talk about my Aptera journey, it really isn't just my journey. It's really about a global movement towards increased efficiency in transportation, with Aptera Motors leading the way. I traveled to Nuremberg to learn from a group called Aptera.Solar, an advocacy group. This group, formed by a core of seasoned engineers, business experts, and Aptera enthusiasts, offers the opportunity to learn important insights that will lead to Aptera's expansion into Europe and beyond. Aptera.Solar members represent a material percentage of European Aptera reservation holders and well over $1 million of investment in Aptera Motors. Join me today in part one of a two-part interview with Aptera.Solar core team member Joachim. We'll be focusing our discussion on market size in Europe and the needed homologation, and a special opportunity now as the EU working groups prepare to modify and update homologation rules. Welcome to my Aptera journey, our Aptera journey in Nuremberg, Germany.
Hello, Rich. Good to have you here. At this very special place in Nürnberg, at the close to the Albrecht Dürer house. Basically, a lot of heritage in this house. You probably see that this is not a very finished house. This is a house under construction with about more than 600 years of history here. We decided to have a little conversation here. So welcome to the old city of Nürnberg.
Thank you, Joachim. It's my pleasure to be here in Nuremberg, this very historic city that also is home of advanced technology. In Bavaria, we have the BMW manufacturing work and a long legacy of automotive manufacturing. And we're here today to talk about the Aptera in Europe, the business potential for Aptera, the partnership potential for Aptera, and just have a conversation about those things. So, Joachim, what are your thoughts about the business opportunity for Aptera in Europe?
Well, I guess they are as big as in the US, if not bigger. Population-wise, it's more or less the same, 330 million, give or take. But there's one difference, into the US, did study there, have friends there, spent probably altogether a bit over a year in the US, mainly in Arizona. So when I compare the environmental consciousness of people in Europe generally to the average environmental consciousness in the US, I would say it's way higher in Europe. People care much more in their daily life and also in their strategic decisions in their personal life about like efficiency, waste, how waste is treated, how often you get new things, about circular economy and stuff like that. If I take that aspect, besides the population, the market size, I would say the amount of vehicles potential sales here in Europe is probably even higher than in the US. Now, we learned from one of the presentations from Aptera that the reservation numbers is only about 4% in Europe, 4 or 7, don't remember exactly, compared to the total reservation number. So question is, why is that? And I guess it's simply because there wasn't so much marketing and advertisement done in Europe, and especially to the European audience.
Well, thank you. I think those are some interesting observations. I've been to Europe, I would say many times. I lived in Germany for 2 years as a young man. And again, I've brought my family and I've traveled many times. And I would say that Europeans are just as a whole are very environmentally conscious, much more environmentally conscious. And it's not just about environmental consciousness, it's about saving money. How can I make decisions to save money? And with the design of the highly efficient Aptera, I can save money.
Definitely.
I drive a car right now that gets about 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I don't know off the top of my head what that equivalent is, but the Aptera should get 10 miles per kilowatt hour, a tremendous improvement. I can sit my car outside and charge it for 40 miles. That's probably close to 90 kilometers. And it costs nothing. So I would agree with you that in Europe, there would be a great market for Aptera. So how can we, as Apterians, how can we take advantage of that? What can we do to take advantage of that?
Well, I guess there's two things. First one is we need to communicate a little bit more about this savings, or in other words, total cost of ownership, TCO. Yes, that's more relevant to the business people, like for people who manage fleets, like in consulting companies or stuff like that. I agree with that one. But the TCO is not something unknown to the general folks here in Germany, at least. So they care about it. And if you tell them that, like, the car charges itself for, let's say, 60-70% of the time, probably not in winter so much, but 60-70 or even higher percentage of your commutes or drives is covered by the sun. Hey, that's an argument, and that will resonate with people, definitely. Yeah, and then there's the second thing about the Aptera in Europe, and that's the homologation, right? So far, it's the brutal truth. Aptera is not in a situation, the vehicle actually, is not in a situation that it can be homologized according to the current regulations in Europe. And we have the regulation that was established back in 2013 for the whole European market. That means if it's homologated in one country, it is automatically accepted in all other EU countries. But at the moment, the regulation is divided in two classes, which is the L class for the light vehicle. It's not only electric vehicles, but light vehicles. And then there is the M class, which is more or less just cars as we know them. But the issue is that the M class has additional safety requirements like lane assist, additional airbags, crash testing requirements are higher, stuff like that, right? And I don't see Aptera, meeting all these criteria, which I totally support because it's not necessary given the carbon fiber and the steel and stuff we know right now. I totally support that. But if you look at the L class, which would be suitable for Aptera, the L class has less requirements in terms of safety and assistance systems, but it has also limitations. And those limitations were defined 11 years ago. So they don't reflect cars today. For example, the width is restricted to 2 meters. The length is restricted to 4 meters, generally for all L classes. Now there's a weight limit of 1,000 kilograms, but that's without the battery for electric cars, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. People have been talking about this, but based on our research, that's not an issue. Weight is fine, right? But you see that there is a limit from the bottom in the L classes, and there is a limit from the top from the M classes, and there is a gap in between.
And what is that
gap
limit?
is,
What is that gap?
The gap is basically that Aptera is right in the middle where no homologation is possible, because Aptera is too wide and too long and doesn't meet other requirements. And on the other hand side, it would fit into the M class from the length and the width and the weight and stuff like that. But Aptera, as I said, I support this, does not want to meet all the requirements of a normal car here, right? The M class. So, but that's the not so good message. The good message is those regulations are revised, reworked, adjusted every 10 to 15 years. And based on our work with regulators and also close to the European Commission people, we know that right now they are being reworked. So it's a chance for Aptera to get over to Europe or to, get somebody involved here from Europe, because Aptera has the chance to get into these working groups and to influence the definition and the regulation of these new vehicle classes. We know that this is being done. We know the universities, we know the communities that work on that. And we also spoke to some OEMs who went through this homologation path with the CEOs and the founders, and they expressed their openness to share their experience with the leadership of Aptera. So the door is wide open. The only issue is right now that Aptera needs to put some time and energy and focus on this homologation process, because it will take a while. That's the simple truth. And the earlier you started with limited resources in terms of time and money, that shouldn't be a problem, even given the current situation we know with Aptera. The earlier you start, the earlier you will be able to ship Apteras in high numbers to Europe. And that's what we're working for.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind is Aptera's relationship with CPC in Italy. Apparently, they have acquired the expertise of the carbon fiber, the forging of the carbon fiber, and I think the metal frame, I think, may have been designed in Italy as well.
To my knowledge, CPC was basically the door opener, so to say, to the European environment of companies. CPC has a long history in carbon fiber. They are working for supercar manufacturers. They know the material, they know the process, they know exactly what to do. I have full confidence in them. And actually, we've been in touch with them directly. We spoke with them, and no question there. I mean, check. They are professionals. They know what to do. Now, the metal frame was done. I'm not aware of if it was designed or co-designed, but that's not important to me or to us. That was done by the company called Co-Stamp, right? So there is a network of companies which Aptera uses, to my understanding, and that's just great, right? But as far as I know, none of the companies involved, or as far as publicly known, none of these companies involved does homologation. One of the founders of these other companies I've personally spoken to, because I know him for about 6 or 7 years personally, who went through this homologation process. They have done their homologation with a specialized partner in Spain. And that guy would be open to share this information also with Aptera. And there's probably also a little bit of a misconception in terms of money required. Yes, homologation with a specialized company does cost money, but it's definitely way below the millions. Let's just put it this way.
Any idea what that would be?
Yeah, about 80 to 100,000.
I think the relationship with CPC and the new electric motors that are made, I think, not far from your home,
Yeah, that Vitesco has a plant, as far as I know, in China, and they're also producing small numbers in a city called Regensburg, which is about a 2 hours drive from my home.
I think those relationships offer keys to expanding into Europe. And with that, and I often stumble on this word, with that homolog, the harmonization, I'll say harmonization. With that harmonization, a tremendous market opens up.
Yeah.
Just a tremendous market.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I just envision, first of all, the Italians. The carbon fiber is forged in Italy. I think of the Germans, that right now the motor is manufactured perhaps in Germany, perhaps in China. We don't know exactly. German company, yeah. We know that Aptera has worked intensely with Ilafe in Slovenia in the design of the in-wheel motors. And we know that Aptera is moving towards, or has intent to move forward with, all-wheel drive when they're ready. So to me, it makes total sense to start with that harmonization to open up that market. In my senses, just in my visits over the years in Europe, the Dutch would love to have an efficient vehicle like the Aptera. The Spanish would love to have an efficient vehicle, especially that charges from the sun. The Italians would love to have a vehicle where the carbon fiber is pressed in a factory a few hundred kilometers.
And don't forget the Norwegians, if I may throw in some numbers.
Please.
I just heard them about 2 weeks ago, actually from fully charged show, right? The percentage of all new car sales in Norway is 94% BEVs. So all other propulsion technologies, petrol, diesel, hybrid, any form of gas, anything combined of new car sales in Norway today is 6%. 94% is pure battery electric vehicles. And there's another number which is even more astonishing. You know, when we talk about Germany, the total number of BEVs compared to in the market right now on the road is about 2 to 3%. In Norway, it just reached the tipping point of 50%. So including all cars on the road ever sold right now driving on the road in Norway, more than 50% are pure battery electric vehicles. That's astonishing.
That is astonishing. I was aware of the fact that on the purchase end of it, that it was 90 something, but the fact that we're up to 50% BEVs is amazing.
All driving cars in that country, yeah.
And what you're suggesting in Germany here, for example, and I'm sure there's other other countries in the EU are the same, that there's a tremendous growth opportunity.
It is.
Are there programs sponsored by the EU or member states to help the adoption of BEVs?
Yes, there are. It's very different in each country, and it varies also from government to government. I think it's more or less the same in the US. You know, different governments have different goals and different ways to support their goals. It's the same here. There's different incentives on the purchase price of cars. We had a model in Germany, and I think in several European countries, that if the manufacturer gives a certain amount, I think it was at the beginning 3,000 euros or something like that, then the government gives the same amount of money on top of it. So in total, the car would be 6,000 euros cheaper, right? They reduced that. Now in Germany, there's nothing to my knowledge. But then there's other incentives, like there was an incentive that if you buy an EV, battery electric vehicle, you get the wall box, the charging wall box for your home for free, up to a certain limit, right? Then they did the same, and I think it's even in place right now for businesses, right? So that there's different ways of supporting the introduction of BEV or even charging infrastructure here. And sometimes it's even down to the city. In Munich, you know, parking downtown in the inner part of the city is really expensive. Like just parking your car for an hour, it costs you a lot of money. But if you have a BEV and you do like a little device, Parkscheibe, we call it in Germany, that basically signals the time when you arrive there, right? Behind the windshield, you can park 4 hours for free.
You know, that's interesting to learn that, was it Munich?
Munich. It's in other cities as well, but I know the situation in Munich best.
There's a YouTube channel I often watch, and I don't recall the exact name, but Tesla Bjorn.
Yeah.
I watch Tesla Bjorn. He's a great tester. And I remember one of his phrases. Right now, I'm driving an EV while in Germany, and Tesla Bjorn would say, "It's thirsty." It's a thirsty EV. But what you just shared about Munich was interesting, because from what I've learned from Tesla Bjorn is that in Norway, there are like HOV lanes where you get if you're EV, you get special privilege for just like a bus.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's not like comparable to HOV lanes in the US. I know them from Arizona, and I think like if the occupancy is more than one person, you are allowed to use the HOV line, and in some situations probably also as a BEV or something like that. I'm not exactly aware of it. That concept does not exist in Europe. I'm not aware of this. But that said, in Norway, for some time, BEV drivers were allowed to use the bus lanes. And also in Germany, there's a discussion going on back and forth to have additional privileges. So yes, people and governments are trying to push the adoption of BEVs.
And that's wonderful. But for me, and as I think we talked about a little earlier, the European perspective on efficiency, reusability, recyclability, etc. It's the efficiency that matters. When you go from, at least the way I'm used to measuring, 3 miles per kilowatt hour to 10 with the Aptera, you've just about tripled your efficiency. Yeah. And I don't have to use a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack.
It's a positive cycle, and if you explain that to people, it all makes sense, right? I mean, efficiency brings smaller battery packs, that reduces weight, that gives more efficiency, so you get in a positive cycle, and that simply makes sense. So that's why, for example, we as an Aptera.Solar community, by the way, representing about 10% of the European reservation holders. I just double-checked the numbers yesterday. And representing several millions, one-digit million of investment in Aptera. Some people want to stay private, but we know them, we're in touch with them, and others are more open. So we know somebody who has a 3-digit number of reservations of Aptera privately. Anyway, what I wanted to say is representing those numbers in our community, we want to bring the Aptera as fast as possible to Europe, including launch editions that we will import on our own cost. Support from Aptera is very welcome, right? We will do not a homologation, but there is a possibility to import specific cars, although they don't meet the generic or general homologation criteria, to import them in small numbers. That's what we are aiming to do. And then we are planning to do road trips throughout Germany, throughout Europe. People are, I think, in 9 different countries of Europe that we know that want to participate in these road trips. And I think then the word will spread. Then the reservation numbers will go up. And then probably we will see also in numbers that the market here is as big as the US market, if not bigger.
Ode to Aptera, the most efficient vehicle on the planet. Aptera cruising, wingless flight. I love Aptera, it feels so right. Glides down the highway, taking off from the sun. No more drilling, can't you see? We're done. Cruising, wingless flight. I love Aptera, it feels so right. The future is now. Protect Mother Earth. Keep her healthy for what it's worth. What's your pleasure, Luna or Soul? Let's save the planet, we're on a roll. Glides down the highway, taking off from the sun. No more drilling, can't you see?